All right, welcome everyone to the 52nd installment of The Way It Is. And I am your host, Luca with Remax Service First Realty. And my guest today is a longtime friend, longtime client. And we grew up playing soccer together. We grew up playing soccer against each other. And and so it's Victor Mendes, who I'm just going to read a bit of his biography, but he is now the longtime head coach of the RMC men's soccer program, having joined the Paladins as an assistant in 1999 before he took over as head coach in 2003. With a heavy focus on video analysis, Victor worked with the Canadian national team for 14 years, including 10 years as a member of the World Cup team staff and 4 years with the youth national team. His tenure at Canada Soccer included over 100 international matches, 3 World Cup qualifying campaigns, and 4 Gold Cup competitions under 4 different head coaches. Victor has also remained connected to the professional soccer scene from 2007 to still today through consistent scouting for various teams and leagues, including, and if those of you that follow footy, these are preeminent names: LA Galaxy, San Jose Earthquakes, the Chicago Fire, all with the MLS, Lille Football Club, League One in France, Roma Football Club in Serie A in Italy, and the Halifax Wanderers. So, Victor, thank you for being here.
Well, thanks, Luca. I appreciate it. This is awesome. Very unique. And when you read through my CV, it tells me how long I've been around and how old I'm getting. We've played against each other and with each other for decades now, which has been great.
Yeah, that's right. And the reason this is timely and why I wanted you on the program is because, of course, Canada hit a milestone. The national team hit a milestone last night, defeating Mexico in Edmonton. Yeah. And although I haven't been following them closely during their qualifying games, I did watch that one. And I have to admit, I was extremely impressed with the level of play, the level of skill, and then just their desire to win. So, I guess we'll start with that. You've been involved with the national program. It's, as Canadians, soccer's not the preeminent sport here. It's getting better and better. But this obviously is a big moment, right?
It's actually bigger than big. I can. In my almost 12 years with the senior team, I think we played Mexico probably 4 to 5 times. And we, with all due respect to the players on that team, as, Thomas Rudzinski and Dwayne De Rosario and Julie de Guzman, all players in their own right on the world-class stage. Fantastic. They had wonderful careers. Paul Stalteri, Kevin McKenna. We were never really close to Mexico. We just fell short a lot of those years. And to see where we are today, even watching that game, I'm not lying to you, I'm getting goosebumps now just talking about it. It's incredible. The young footballers that we have playing for us, it goes on. Jonathan David, Alphonso Davies, Tajon Buchanan, that's just 3 of the 20 guys that are there. Honestly, I can keep going. But they're playing at the biggest clubs in the world, and they're not only playing. Alphonso Davies now has Champions League trophies sitting in his case. Jonathan David, who 6 years ago was playing for the Ottawa Internationals in Ottawa, Ontario, massive club, went to Belgium, made his mark there, and got sold for 31 million euro, and now is the leading scorer against a league that has Messi and Neymar playing in it.
Yeah.
Wrap your head around that. It's fantastic. It's awesome. Awesome for Canada.
So that speaks to, because Alphonso Davies certainly, and you mentioned the litany of great players throughout Canada's history that, of course, those that don't follow soccer or football, wouldn't know them, but they were outstanding footballers, as you said. But this Alphonso Davies, he's taken it to the next level. He's
next level.
He's in a class on his own, is he not? He's
next level. He's a refugee that came to Canada when he was 13 years old.
I heard the story.
I first saw Alphonso when we did these identification camps for U15s all over the country. He was already kind of being looked at by the Whitecaps Academy. We brought them in at the time. On that staff was Tony Fonseca, who was the technical director, who actually brought this vision to light in bringing young footballers earlier as a 13, 14, 15-year-old to get noticed by national teams because we were missing them. Paul Salteri is part of the staff. Ante Jazik and Rob Gale were the 3, 15, 17, and 20 coaches at the time. And I watched him. He came to Jamaica with us. He's 15 years old playing for the under-17 national team. And I'm like, whoa, there's something special. But I think the timing of him going to Bayern Munich and them needing an actual left back and playing with some of the greatest players in the world day in, day out. And he really just excelled. I couldn't have dreamed that he'd been, winning Champions Leagues and playing in Champions League games, and incredible. So good for Alphonso. That's incredible. But he's really taken soccer to the next level in Canada for sure.
And just those that didn't watch the game, find a replay of it. It's well worth watching. And there's two highlights, and we'll move on to a couple of other questions, but two Alphonso Davies highlights that struck home for me watching that game. One was after the second goal was scored by Laren, who got both goals. Alphonso Davies was the first player almost to grab him to celebrate. It just showed to me how he just cared about this national team. He cared the pride of Canada getting a goal. It didn't matter who got the goal. It didn't matter he got the goal or anything else. And then the second just speaks to his athleticism, because there was a point in the second half where he started from their back 20, I think, and outran everybody. Even flew by
Eustachio, and Eustachio looked over his shoulder, and that was at the 82nd minute. I know. I just went remarkable.
Wow. I said, who is that? And then he still had gas in the tank. Like, it was just crazy, crazy. So we're at this precipice now, and I know Canada, again, because soccer wasn't there. And when you and I were growing up playing soccer, there wasn't anything like we have now infrastructure wise, with all these rep leagues and these regional leagues now, because now there seems to be a pipeline that children can access. So why don't you speak about that a little bit and see where we're at with that?
Biggest change, be honest with you, are the academies, the Vancouver Whitecaps, Vancouver Whitecaps, TFC, and Montreal. They all have academies. But really, when they all made the jump and went to the MLS, it fueled soccer. And by mean fuel is kids, me and you, used to dream about playing at the highest level, going to Europe and everything else. Well, but the bit of a pipe dream, but we never let go of it. Really, even today, I think I can still walk over there and do it, never let go of that dream. But what's happened is the reality of making yourself a professional and feeding your family has become reality. Before, they'd see hockey, massive contracts, baseball, everything else in North America. Whereas now you look at the MLS and you look at TFC and you can see, Josie Altidore, like the guys playing on that team, the contracts that they signed, Giovenco 5 years ago, they were on $6-7 million. The realization that you can become a professional footballer and get big dollars, because as a kid, that's kind of where you're going with it. Make sure you can feed your family. That was the biggest fuel, and it just continued and continued. And there's a passion. And then our women's program, to give them credit, I was never on the women's side of that end of things, but give credit where credit is due. The Christine Sinclairs, they really were first on the stage before the men's team started, and we were packing the stadiums when they'd come. And our generation of young soccer players in this country it's 10 times what it's ever been, with all due respect to all the other guys, all the players that have gone through to help get us to this point. But the scale, and you were talking about last night, one specific thing, one major thing that I've noticed with this particular group. I'm lucky enough to still know a few of the guys, the older boys. I'm still like good friends with Atiba and Milan and Nets and some of those guys, and we do speak a little bit. But the other boys, kind of a disconnect because of the years. But I will tell you, the camaraderie and the belief that they can beat anybody is incredible. I see it, I feel it, and I'm not even in the stadium. I was lucky enough to go to the other games here in Toronto. And it's beyond. When you say Alphonso went and grabbed Kyle first thing, I see that. I believe it because I know what's happening in the room. It's incredible.
Yeah.
That's what's fueling.
Yeah, and that segues to, I guess, the addition of John Herdman, who was the women's coach for a while, now the men's coach. Obviously has some pedigree, and how big is that, the coaching then that's because, correct me if I'm wrong, was Leonard Doozy ever part of the coaching staff for the national team?
Oh, years ago.
Years
Bob
ago?
was coach,
Okay.
years and years, like 25, 30 years ago.
Okay.
So it was more of a disconnect. Tony Waiters was the big coach that took us to the 1986 World Cup.
Okay.
But in regards to John, again, not a personal friend, never worked for him. I was already gone by the time John came and took over the program. But in retrospect to how he's dealt with things, yes, he's gotten an immense talent and he's working with it, but he's fine-tuning it, and he's got everybody playing what he thinks should be the right way, which, regardless of you like him, hate him, whatever, it's working. So kudos to him and his staff. He's got Jason DeVos on his staff, Mara Biello. You know what? It's obviously he's done the right thing to get us to this point. Do we have talented players? 100%. Do they work? I've never seen a work rate on a team like this in a long time. Like, I associate this with the Barcelonas. When they lose the ball, the first instinct is to work harder than they did when they had it. And that's what you're getting.
Yeah.
90 minutes of sure out, like, you are not going to beat us. You're not going to get the ball. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, no, I was impressed with that. They closed down really well. They worked as a team, no question about it. Now, how much of a role does varsity football play? Going through a university program or a college program like the RMC and stuff like that. Is there a pipeline? Yeah. Can a player from your squad, for instance, get a shot somewhere, or how does that happen, or can it happen?
So with the introductory of the CPL, the new pro league, a few years back, what's happened is with U Sport, which is Canadian University, we have a direct draft system. So right now, the Nationals are going on in Ottawa right now at Carleton. They're hosting. So there are probably 6 or 7 players playing at Nationals right now that are professional players. I'll say this kind of gently. Am I a massive fan of allowing professional players to play in an athlete academic-based league? No, but the question is, what is the pathway? Well, right now, Gabby Bitar, who plays at Carleton University, has come back for his 5th year. Gabby was the first round draft pick for Cavalry into the CPL. You sign non-professional contracts. You go and train and play with the team in a professional environment. And then if you choose, you release from that pro team on August 15th and you can attend school. So to answer a couple of questions, that's a huge pathway for the CPL, because even though the numbers and the salaries and everything else isn't quite MLS, obviously, and, European football. However, again, you have a young university boy that's playing who all of a sudden gets drafted, goes and plays, doesn't make a lot of money, but is still in that environment. That's huge. That would have never happened 10 years ago. So subsequently, a school like RMC, because we're so unique, it is a different world here. Would I have had a couple of players that could have qualified for that? 100%. But because there's a bit of a military component, it kind of steers you away from becoming a professional footballer. Right. However, there are unique places, and I'd like to say I was in a rebuild this year. The pandemic didn't do me any favors. We'll get back there, but I would love to see a player being able to get drafted into the CPL out of RMC. That would be incredible, really. Right. But the likes of York University, Carleton University, Guelph, they're all in the Ryerson, U of T. They're all in the top 10 every year, and they played right here in our backyard. Yeah. So that is all the kids that were playing at academy systems that were paying big dollars that learn the trade. Well, not everybody can become professional soccer players. So the next route is university. So our university standard of soccer is probably 10 times what it was 5 years ago, if not more.
Well, you and I played with varsity players back in the day and
Yep.
stuff too. Al McVicker and
Yep.
Dave McDowell and the Walker family.
Yeah.
They were perennial coachings
Yeah.
of the Queens varsity team, right? So I was fortunate enough. My kids live in Halifax, and I was out to visit them at the end of September. And one of the things, because both my kids went up through the Timbit leagues, and I coached Josh's team for a little while, and Michaela's team too, as frustrating as that was back in the day. But anyway,
I don't know if it's changed too much.
No, I don't think that's changed too much anyway. But we went to Halifax. I forget that. Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And you know what? It was a great game. They played Ottawa. Ottawa wasn't there. I think they were the bottom of the pack. But but you know, it was entertaining soccer. It was an entertaining game, and the fans were, you know, it was like a microcosm of an FC game where they were like, they had their marauding fans in the one corner with all the, you know, the drums and the fireworks going off and everything. It was very enjoyable. But I guess my thought to me was, who's sustaining this financially? Like, where is the money coming from? Apart from, like, are they privately owned? Is it government subsidized? Because because I had to assume, sort of knowing what I know, I was going like, these players can't be getting paid a ton to play this level of soccer. So are they working part-time? Are they going to school still? Like, who's financing all of this? Do you have any insight into how that's working? Or
Well, actually, it's funny you talked about Halifax. So my longtime mentor is actually the head coach, Stephen Hart. I worked for him with the national team for 9 years. And when he took the job, I actually came on as one of the head scouts for Halifax. I still am to this day. We communicate. Like I said, I have so much respect for him. And we do have the best fans in the league. It's incredible, like the Small Wanderers grounds, and it's awesome. So kudos to that organization and to Stephen for doing that. You know, to answer a couple of other questions, it is private owners. They're all private owners. You know, they're businessmen. Obviously, their investments. You know, specifically the one that's not a private is Ottawa. Ottawa Atleti is actually owned by Atletico Madrid.
Wow.
Yeah, they bought the franchise, and I'll be honest, I was pretty excited because I thought they were going to start bringing some of their young boys to get development. That hasn't come into fruition yet. I was actually at the York Ottawa game just about a month ago in York, and I didn't, you know, I was expecting a little bit more from Ottawa. I know that they've promised that their product's going to be a little bit better, but in regards to the fund, it is all privately funded. It is all one owners, except for that team. Everyone else is all private owners, shareholders. The league actually has a really good contract with Media Pro. It's the One Soccer. They're doing the Canada national team games and everything. So they signed a 6-year deal, which takes us right through the World Cup, 2026. Okay. So there's sustainment there. But I will be honest with you, Luca, if you look at the MLS model, I don't know how much people know about that, but Kraft from New England, this gentleman named Lamar Hunt, and Anschutz, who owns a Galaxy. They're billionaires in their own right. Yes. They all own either football teams or anything else. They literally, after the 1994 World Cup, said, we are starting a league. And they lost up to $10 to $12 million a year, every year, for the first 20 years. I believe that the MLS boys only started making money about 5 or 6 years ago, but now we're talking almost 30 years now. So it's taken a long time. They don't make any money in the CPL, these owners. This is sheer passion, you know what? I'm going to build what they did in Canada. Wow. Sort of fuel, and it's almost on the same basis. They started doing it just before they hosted their World Cup in '94. We are the same thing. We needed a domestic league. We were the only country. I don't know that any other country didn't have their own domestic league, and you can't count TFC and Vancouver and Montreal as a domestic league because that's an American MLS team league. Yep. Sorry. So it's very much privately funded, and you know what? As far as salaries, I can talk a little bit because it is kind of public. No one in the league makes more than 35 to 45 grand, but you're true professionals. You're not to have another job.
Okay.
The league runs 8 months, and you are there every day. It's a professional environment, or as professional as they can make it. It's not part-time. It's impossible for you to work part-time because you're training in the morning. You're on their schedule. So, you know, but young man got nowhere to go, 18, 19. can't go to Europe, can't do this, can't do that. Who cares? It's not about the money. You got to put in your time to learn your trade, to learn your craft. We've seen some young boys go already and come back. We've seen the other way. So it's getting there. I mean, it's still definitely in its infancy. But
for sure.
It's getting there. It's getting there.
And I mean, presumably their goal is to get to the MLS, right? I mean, that would be to a European team or a League 3 somewhere in Europe or something like that, right?
So the ownership groups at the CPL have always made it clear that they want to be on par with the MLS.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's a statement. So even in, say, the Canadian Championships, well, you're playing against MLS teams. It's not like you're going to play them later. It's they want to be in the MLS in 25 years or 30 or whatever it takes. But they've made it very clear that this is our intent. We don't have the population of the MLS. We're not the United States where there's 350 million people. Yeah. However, I mean, there are smaller countries in the world that have produced players like look at all the small European countries, Belgium. I mean, they're tiny countries. Iceland. Yeah. Iceland is, I think, what's the whole population of Iceland? 8 million?
300,000 people, 350,000 tops.
Yeah,
the whole country.
Yeah, exactly. It's I was thinking of something else for 7 million. It's nothing. They made the World Cup. They have guys playing at the highest level all the time. So, it's not about really demographics, but, you've got to buy in. And I think with everything happening in this country, the gold medal for the girls, incredible. Now we're hosting the World Cup 2026, a few games. And now our men's team starts playing like this. I mean, it's just fuel on the fire. It keeps going. Yeah, it's great.
So, it is. So let's bring it down to a real local level then, because, growing up, you and I mean, it's the Clippers now as a big club. There's Kingston United, but I think Clippers, still, and Clippers has joined forces with Queen's University, right? Yeah. To have sort of is it like an academy, I guess I'll call it, or
So there are the Clippers, there's Kingston United, and then there's also Pegasus, which is an outside, just a smaller club. But in regards to, so Kingston United has the OPDL teams, which are the elite of the province, whereas the Clippers don't. But I think the numbers are still higher with the Clippers. But the whole Junior Gales thing, so Guelph did this in the city of Guelph about 4 or 5 years ago, where they went out to the whole community and they embraced the whole community and said, we want hockey, baseball, everything. And from my understanding, I'm not sitting in the room at Queens, but that was the same model that they wanted to bring. They attacked the hockey, the minor league hockey, everything else to bring it under the Junior Gales. And what that does is that creates a pathway to go to university.
Right.
I think it's, I don't know what the trade-off was. Was it using facilities? Was it using coaching? I don't know. I know that the Queen's men's coach actually is the TD for the Clippers, right?
Okay.
And I think they're paid by half. The Clippers pay half a salary, and I think Queen's pays half a salary. But again, hearsay, I don't know for sure, but I do know that there's a big intertwine in that. And I think even things like that, being outside of soccer, hockey, whatever, it's kind of gives you, like if you're 9 years old and your aspirations go to university, well, if you're a Junior Gale, I'd love to start that at RMC as well, which we do. We have our soccer academy, which is the Paladins Academy. Okay. So we have a smaller version, but again, such a small university that it's hard. Like I'm not competing with Queens, never will, never can.
No. Yeah.
But to have an end goal and an end vision is what's important to youngsters these days. I think, if you can't see where you might be in 10 years, it's hard to have a passion for what you're doing. Any sport, really.
No, absolutely. And that goes back to the point that you made that now kids, because that was freezing cold in Edmonton last night and they still had 50,000 people. Well, they had sold 52,000 tickets. I think they said 44,000 were in attendance.
Because of flights.
So, and that, that's a cold stadium at even in the summertime, let alone at minus 15. So, children can actually, like you said, see, feel, and taste now, that there is a pot of gold, or there's a light at the end of the tunnel, pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, whatever metaphor you want to use. But, and so I think it gets them more and more excited. And let's face it, even us, when, you're a parent now, my kids are adults now, but back in the day when we were kids, it was just our parents were immigrants. It was an inexpensive activity to
100%.
keep your kids enrolled in, right? Because
100%.
hockey, you needed equipment, you needed this and that. And to this day, I think the focus for families still is, I want to have my kid get some exercise, get some recreation. I need to buy them a pair of, the Timbits, I think the kit comes with the registration, and then you buy them a pair of cleats, you know what I'm saying? Or a pair of sneakers or whatever. So it certainly access is easier than potentially some other sports that are sort of more prominent, I guess.
I 100%. It is, and it is a great sport because it's something that gets you outside, and parents are more for it, but we live in a hockey-based city. We all know that, which is, I mean, look at the Hall of Famers that we have that actually still live here, and
absolutely,
and it's fantastic. And we're a hockey country, and we're a hockey city. But as time gets on, I can see the popularity of soccer growing to the point where, for about the last 8 or 9 years, I know hundreds of parents that were driving their kids to Ottawa to play at the next level 3 or 4 times a week. So that tells you that, like, we're moving on. Okay, we there isn't the big leagues because we don't have a big city. Okay, well, what's the next level? Well, some of those parents, I'm going to be honest, are paying $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a year, and that's what it costs. So it's on par with any hockey that you're playing. So they're the fuel of the parents, and that's what it really takes. It's the mindset of the parents. The kids pushing the parents, but the parents saying, "Oh, well, you know what? I'm going to give you every opportunity to either get a scholarship, go and play professional, do what you need to do, but I'm going to supply it," just like in every other sport now. And that was the other thing too. In soccer, in this country, in the United States of America, the more academies pop up, not professional academies, the more, everyone seems to, I played here, so I'm going to start an academy and I'm going to charge you $100. It's the almighty dollar is turning, and people are like, "Ooh, I can make a living from this." Well, okay, let's go. And all of a sudden parents get into it, and they, the belief, it's just a big cylinder, and again, it's a little bit of passion for the game.
Yep.
And a little bit of, I can make a big dollar, big paycheck at the end of the day. And the parents are like, yeah. I think that's great. And they're passionate too about the sport,
Yeah. So I've taken up a lot of your time, and I appreciate it. So I'm gonna end this, not to be controversial, but you and I, we've known soccer in this city forever and played in the men's league and everything else. In your opinion, because you're more qualified, what's some of the best talent that come out of this city? Local players. Eddie
Macedo.
Yeah, I remember him.
Eddie Macedo is very quality. He actually had a chance. He went back for a year or so. I think Alan Papazzi was a very talented soccer player. He got to go back a little bit. Going way back before our generation, there was some Peter Landau.
Yes, I remember
the great
that.
Peter Landau. Peter's probably 7 years old, but I remember as a little kid, I watched Peter play, and he was amazing. And my dad was lucky enough to actually start the Benfica club in 1978. So I watched a lot of these guys play. They were like professionals, semi-professionals, come over as immigrants. Bart, I forget Bart Jusistreski. I think that's his. That's his name.
Yeah. I forgot.
There's been a lot. There's been a lot. I'd love to put you in that category, but we're going to be controversial here. You can be beating on me all the time.
Hey, I'll keep. I was decent in my day. I'll live with my memories.
Luca, I'll give you what you were. You're a good athlete. You're a good player. Smart. It's and kudos to you that you're still playing because it's. I know you try to stay as fit as possible and keep playing, and that's important.
Yeah. It is, and we had some great games, and you know what? We had even in the men's league. There's some talented players. It's impressive. So
there's a difference between talent and professional. It's a very fine line, and I know a lot of guys and people believe that they can make the next level. But I give this speech all the time. football and soccer is not about how talented you are, but how much your desire is and what you want to give back.
Yeah.
It is all about mental state.
Yeah.
I can give you guys that have scored 50 goals. Can they handle the pressure? Can the mentality? It's a lifestyle. You know, there's no going out. There's no doing that. And that's what one message I try to pass on to young people, young athletes that want to become professional footballers, men or women, because the women now they're popping up everywhere, and it's a mandate by FIFA. So, hey, kudos to you. Awesome.
Yeah.
PSG has teams. Benfica has a women's team. But the one thing I always say is you got to be able to just understand the game, and it's a lifestyle. It's not a game. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, we'll end it there. I really appreciate your time. It's awesome, especially on the aftermath of Canada's great success. So listen, all the best at RMC there. I know you're rebuilding, so better success next season. And I know you're sneaking off to actually meet some players and their families. So good luck with that. So
hopefully they're coming. Thanks, Luca. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome, man. Thanks. Okay, bye-bye.
Take care.